The Madam Web movie looks like it is going to be an utter disaster, and actress Dakota Johnson is putting the nails in the coffin. Before we get into this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Let's get into this over here at thatparkplace.com. Headline reads: Despite overwhelming cultural dominance of superheroes, Madam Web actress Dakota Johnson makes absurd comment. Sometimes it's hard to relate to someone shooting lasers out of their eyes. I mean, it's like, who even thinks of this? Superheroes have been dominant since 2008 when Iron Man came out. Obviously, the Avengers film took them to another level. And then Infinity War and Endgame just completely took over the cultural zeitgeist. But apparently, shooting it's hard to relate to them because they have superpowers. But let's get into this here. Johnson was speaking with Entertainment Weekly while promoting the upcoming film. She plays Cassandra Webb in the movie in what's being described as an origin story. And this is what she said: "It was really important to me that she's really human and grounded in reality, and that her life feels like, oh, I can relate to that. Sometimes it's hard to relate to someone shooting lasers out of their eyes." She then apparently deadpanned, saying, "I mean, not for me. I obviously do that all the time." Obviously, referring to her, I guess, acting as Cassandra Webb. And I think the problem with this is they're always trying to create these characters that people have to feel like they relate to them rather than just creating characters that have good, strong moral principles, take the right actions, and people are going to relate to them anyways. I mean, I think that's really why people are relating to a lot of. Why they relate to the Marvel Cinematic Universe is because they set the ground so well in phase one with Captain America. You can relate to him because he's the guy who's never going to give up. He's going to continue to fight. The iconic line, "I can do this all day." He's going to continue to fight, and he's going to continue to fight for what is right and just. And he shows that by his actions. Who is the one that jumps on the grenade when the grenade is thrown into the training yard? He jumps onto it. He jumps onto the grenade. He doesn't run away from it. He doesn't flee. He jumps onto the grenade to sacrifice himself to save the rest of his comrades. And that is why we relate to Captain America, because he not only is he willing to do what is right and just all the time, he's willing to take a beating for it all the time, but he actually does indeed do it. And he's willing to save other people at the risk of his own life. Maybe that's why we relate to Captain America, because of the actions that he takes. And then you can look at Iron Man as well. 2008, go back to the very beginning. Why do we like Tony Stark? Because he realizes he's living a life of sin, for lack of a better word. He's boozing it up. He's going to parties. He's acting like a playboy. He's doing all these things that are kind of detrimental to himself. And he eventually ends up paying for it when he's kidnapped by terrorists in the Middle East and forced to basically use his own weapons to try and further their terrorist movement. Fortunately, he's able to outwit them, fight backs against them, and then uncovers a conspiracy theory about how his behavior has allowed himself to be duped by his business partner, who's been undermining everything he set out to do. And he has a radical change in how he views the world, and he goes about seeking justice and putting a stop to what was going on. And that is why I think a lot of people relate to Tony Stark. He gives up his womanizing ways. He settles down for the most part with Pepper Potts by the end of the film. He is actually taking on a heroic actions instead of just kind of selling missiles and everything to profit for himself. He's realizing like there is a duty that he has when it comes to what he's doing, and he starts to pursue those things contrary to maybe what might be the most profitable for his company. Maybe that's something why we relate to Tony Stark and Iron Man. Again, you can do this for Thor, you can do this for Incredible Hulk, you can do it for Hawkeye, you can do it for Black Widow, at least in the beginning, beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Guardians of the Galaxy, etc., etc., etc. It's what the characters do, it's what their actions do, and what their principles are, and that's what people really relate to. It has nothing really to do with what their superpowers are. It's the actions that they take, that they use their superpowers basically as tools to go about performing those actions. Obviously, Tony Stark doesn't have any superpowers. He builds he builds the Iron Man suits and uses his business. So we didn't just get this kind of like absurd comment. It's just utterly ridiculous. Clearly, millions of people are able to relate to the Marvel Cinematic Universe superheroes. And then you can go back to Nolan's Batman and stuff like that. People had no problems relating to those characters. But as Phantom Pulse pointed out as well, uh, we had the Johnson saying that she doesn't even know if the movie is going to be any good. This is what she said. I've never really done a movie where you are on a blue screen and there's fake explosions going off and someone's going, explosion! And you act like there's an explosion. That to me was absolutely psychotic. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be good at all. I hope that I did an okay job. So she has no idea if what she did is going to turn out well. So that's probably not a good thing. I mean, you would think you would hopefully be a little bit more confident that what you were doing was turning out well, or at least kind of relaying that. But she does kind of say here that she trusted her director, S.J. Clarkson. But I trusted her. She worked so hard and she has not taken her eyes off the movie since we started. As for Clarkson, this is kind of what she said about the movie, or I guess what the primary theme will be about the movie. She says, I really love the idea of somebody who can see into the future, but until they can really understand their past and appreciate where they are, they can't use that power. Without wanting to overload it with profundity, I thought that's an amazing thing to explore. If we understand our past and see where we are in the present, we can make that we can then make better choices for the future. I don't want to read into that, but I feel like I am. Maybe it sounds very much like the 1619 project or whatever it is from the New York Times, where they're basically rewriting history to create the fake future that they consider good, which is not good. um that's what it feels like. That it just feels like wokeness in this response here to me. Maybe I'm reading into that. Obviously, it's hard to tell. She didn't. She did, I think, disguise it very well with her comments here to Entertainment Weekly. But this idea of like understanding our past and see where we are in the present, we can then make better choices for the future. Like that all sounds nice and good, but it does reek of kind of that 1619 project that the New York Times was preaching, where basically the United States is evil based on the things that they did in the past and all that. So they have to pay for that quote unquote evil that they did so they can have like a better future and all this stuff, basically trying to get people to hate themselves. So that maybe I'm reading too much into that. I don't know, but that was kind of where my mind went on that on first reading this. Hopefully, it's not like that. But I mean, this is Hollywood. This is a superhero film. This is kind of what they do now. They use these superhero films as vehicles to deliver their woke propaganda because the films are, or were at least, in the zeitgeist or completely had that complete cultural dominance. She later added, I love the psychological, cerebral nature. Not to sound too wanky about it, but it's about what's going on in Cassie's head and her grappling with that. Is she going insane? Is this real? She's battling with that within herself and trying to understand it. Clarkson would also note that the film is unconnected to any other Marvel property. She said, she's definitely in a standalone world. I was able to just have free reign and let the movie be what it needed to be, as opposed to trying to force it into something else. That was a gift in a way to be able to take something and bring a fresh and I hope original take to it. I think that is kind of a death knell because all of these characters are Spider-Man adjacent, and the fact that you don't have Spider-Man in here, but you have all these Spider-Man adjacent characters just seems kind of like, and they're all women, and the villain is a male. Definitely feels like the message is going to be all over this film. As for the official description, this is what it reads. In a switch from the typical genre, Madam Web tells the standalone origin story of one of Marvel Publishing's most enigmatic heroines. I don't think so. I think Madam Web is like an F tier character that has cameo roles, doesn't really play that significant of a role in many Marvel comics. I'd wager she probably has less than 100 appearances total in her entire publishing history. I could be wrong on that, but that would be my guess. The suspense-driven thriller stars Dakota Johnson as Cassandra Webb, a paramedic in Manhattan who develops the power to see the future and realizes she can use that insight to change it. Forced to confront revelations about her past, she forges a relationship with three young women bound for powerful destinies if they can all survive a deadly present. So it doesn't really sound that interesting either. But um, let me know what you guys make of this stuff. This does not get me interested in this film at all. It turns me off from it. I was already turned off, but this turns me off even more. But let me know what you guys make of this. Remember to always be charitable, but to always speak the truth.